Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome into another edition of Morning Jox. Conrad Van Order and Damian Mitchell here with you until 7 o'clock. Appreciate you making us a part of your morning each and every day right here on Jox. And congratulations, everyone. We've made it to another weekend, and especially this time of year means a little something more as we will kick off week 2 of the college football season. You're going to have Auburn hosting Ball State tomorrow, Alabama hosting Louisiana Monroe. Both of those going to be later kickoffs for you. Auburn around 6:30, Alabama around 6:45 tomorrow evening. So a lot to get to. And of course, it is Friday. And as is tradition here on the show, yes, we will do our picks at the end of the program today, but also Final Score Friday. We love doing this. And basically all you do is whatever games, if Alabama, Auburn, maybe you have a strong feel on Ole Miss and Kentucky, Oklahoma and Michigan, whatever games that you're excited for this weekend, you text us your final scores and we'll read them. 205-834-9450. That's how you get on the courtesy GMC text line for Final Score Friday. So send in your final scores. What do you think? How ugly is it going to get between Auburn and Ball State? Is Alabama going to take their frustrations out on Louisiana Monroe, or are the Fighting Brian Vincents going to be able to keep it interesting in Tuscaloosa, at least for a good chunk of tomorrow's game? So we'd love to hear from you what your thoughts are on the games coming up tomorrow, and we will share those, of course, throughout the show today. So we do have some news in the world of college football as we get you ready for week 2, and just kind of want to go over some of the highlight matchups this weekend because, let's be honest, we've spent 90% of this week looking back on Saturday, and rightfully so, because it was something we haven't seen in quite some time from Alabama, and that's going to dominate the conversation. But it's a new weekend, it's a new slate, and we want to talk about some of the exciting games that we have coming up tomorrow around college football and the SEC. But before we get into all that, we got to talk about something that happened last night as the NFL season kicked off, and I'm sure many of you were watching because, I mean, let's be honest, it's the Cowboys, it's the Eagles, it's the start of the NFL season. Maybe you don't even really care that much about the game, but you have CD Lamb in your fantasy team, right? You want to see how well he does or how many catches he'll drop. We'll get to that. But you had the opening kickoff last night between the Eagles and the Cowboys there in Philadelphia. You had the nice trophy ceremony before the game as the Eagles celebrated their Super Bowl championship from last year. And this game you knew was going to be awesome before it even really got started. So, I mean, within the first 10 seconds of game time, you had a special teams player for the Eagles carted off the field with what looked like, I mean, unfortunately, an Achilles, an ACL, a serious knee injury or lower body injury, and probably a season-ending injury. And you hate to see that. I mean, on the opening kickoff, special teams, you feel bad for that guy. You absolutely do. And so, unfortunately, though, some of his teammates, while he was getting carted off the field, there were some other things going on. And so, apparently, this was an interesting thing throughout the night. So, if you missed the beginning of the game, or maybe you're not on social media and you didn't see some of the stuff that came out afterwards. So, essentially, what happens? This guy gets hurt for the Eagles. There's a little back and forth going on between some of the players. The offense is coming on the field for the Cowboys. The defense is coming on the field for the Eagles. And you see Jalen Carter, the former Georgia defensive lineman, straight up spit, not in the face of Dak Prescott, but like right on his chest, like right below his face mask, just straight spit on him. And I was watching this at a restaurant downtown. I mean, it was crazy in there. Everyone was losing their mind because there were a bunch of Cowboys fans, a bunch of Eagles fans. They were all getting after it. And you just don't see that happen. And you certainly don't see that happen like the very first play of the first game of the season. But so Jalen Carter, he spits on Dak Prescott. He gets ejected before the first snap is even played of the Cowboys offense. So he's out of the game. It then comes out later that apparently Dak had spit, I guess, in the general direction of Jalen Carter first. And so Jalen Carter thought that he was being disrespected by Dak Prescott, at which point he then retaliated and got and did what many of you have already seen of him spitting on Dak Prescott. So it was just kind of a bizarre situation, a bizarre way to start the game, Damian. I mean, from there, it was an exciting game, especially the first half. You had that long weather delay, so I know a lot of you probably said, "Hey, I'm probably gonna go to bed during this weather delay," because the game didn't start back until about 10:30 our time, with like 5 minutes left in the third quarter, something like that. So it was a long one. It was definitely a long night if you stayed up like we did and finished the game, but. Just a wild way for it to start with Jalen Carter in that whole situation. That's before you even really got to the action on the field.
Right. So, if you watch the TV copy, it's one of those things where they're dealing with somebody that's being hurt, and then you hear the roar of the crowd. Like, the crowd starts. I'm like, wait a minute. Because at first I was thinking, are there more Cowboys fans in Philadelphia? Like, what's going on? And then you see the players getting into it, and then, the flags thrown all over the place, and then the refs say, number 98, he's been ejected from the game. And everybody's like, what has happened? And they showed the replay, and Jalen Carter to me, you gotta be real. You have to become from a place of hate to spit on somebody. Like, that's such a form of disrespect because you wouldn't do that in regular life. And if you did, that's what we say on site. Like, there's no way we can come back from that. But and then as the game goes on, you see, and to me, Dak Prescott, he's getting in the huddle, and he's kind of talking. I think he's talking to Tyler Booker, and he just spits. Like, it's just kind of just spits.
According to him, he says he spits all the time on the field, and so he was just
just letting
normal
it rip.
Operating for Dak.
Yeah, and then Jalen Carter walks up, talks to him for a second, spits on him, and Dak, without breaking stride, just kind of looks at the ref like, am I seeing this right? Did you just see this? And Jalen Carter, before you can even get the season started, you're gone. And it was, you could say it was detrimental for the Eagles defense, but I think it was more of CeeDee Lamb and his inconsistencies that was hurting the Cowboys, because I will give Dak Prescott a lot of credit. He was putting the ball on the money, at least to CeeDee Lamb. And, you can say the last play of the game, I think if CeeDee Lamb stays up and runs under the ball, he's going to take a lick, but I think he catches that. But there were some drops that he had in key situations, just like, man, this is not what we needed to see if the Dallas Cowboys really want to be taken seriously, because Dak and also the addition of Javonte Williams in the backfield. I know his time at Denver, I had him in fantasy last year, and
he was hurt all the time.
Right. It was, okay, well, he's not healthy this week. Time to find me another one in the waiver wire. But he seems like a nice fit for the lack of run game or consistent run game they've had in years. But overall, it was a great kickoff to the NFL season. But, the biggest takeaway is, what more can Dak Prescott do at this point? Because I think that some of the escapability that he had, this guy's coming off of a hamstring injury, and he's still taking off with the ball, doing, just spectacular things. But his one receiver was just letting him down at every single point.
Yeah, it was it was certainly an interesting game. And like I said, in the first half, it was absolutely electric. You had 41 points combined in the first half. And when I was walking out of here yesterday, I was talking to some people, and they said, "Oh, do you have a play for tonight's game? Like, are you going to play the game?" I said, "Yeah, I'm going to take the over." And they said, "But it's the first game of the season." I said, "Yeah, well, Eagles secondary is going to go through some struggles this year. The Cowboys defense without Michael Parsons. You got CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens now, so that's going to open up CeeDee Lamb a little bit more." I was like, I feel good about the over. So through the first half, I'm sitting there like with this smirk on my face, like, yeah, I told you, like, yeah, first game of the season, they're not going to score a lot. Scored 41 points in the first half. They scored 3 combined in the second half. It was a Eagles field goal in the third quarter, and that was it. Didn't help when the Cowboys fumbled the ball at the 5-yard line at one point. That certainly didn't help at that point. So I feel bad for you if you're like me and you are feeling stupid this morning for taking the over. I swear, if that lightning delay hadn't happened, those offenses were rolling. But credit to the defense, right? After that, they stepped up big time. They said, we're going to take this time, make some adjustments, and they absolutely did that. But Damian mentioned it, Dak Prescott, he goes 21 of 34, 188 yards, no touchdowns, no picks last night, but could have had well over 200 yards if CeeDee Lamb could have reeled in a couple more. But he still had a big night, 7 catches, 110 yards, and he was absolutely dominant, especially in the first half. But yeah, 2 big drops in the second half. I'm not going to fault him for the final play that the Cowboys had where, I mean, could he have caught that? Yes, but I mean, that's not a routine catch by. I mean, when you're
Right.
with that kind of a route, having to dive right in front of you, looking over your shoulder and corral the ball, that's difficult. That's Sports Center top 10 stuff there. So I'm not going to fault him for that. But George Pickens, he has 3 catches for 30 yards in his debut. He thought about it. You see him grab that dude. He thought about it at one point. He was covered in the end zone and it probably should have been called pass interference, but they didn't because they said it was uncatchable and he straight up grabbed the leg of the defender. And for a second, you're like, oh no. Oh no.
It's like his intrusive thoughts are taking over.
Yeah, and but he quickly, I think, realized, okay, can't be doing that. And so yeah, kind of a disappointing debut for him. But you mentioned it, Javonte Williams has 2 touchdowns on the ground for the Cowboys. Jalen Hurts, not the best day. I mean, he wasn't bad passing. They just ran the football a lot. He had the one big pass to Jahan Dotson. Other than that, that was the only throw. Think about this, Damian. That is the only pass that he completed last night for over 10 yards.
Yeah, trust me, I know. I saw AJ Brown's numbers, and it's
one catch for 8 yards.
Yeah, this is the stress of fantasy football. You take a superstar receiver early, and then he's just doing a bunch of cardio for pretty much 4 quarters, and then you hurt the crowd when they finally threw him the ball there in the 4th quarter with 2 minutes and some change left, and it's like, yeah, finally we got him involved. But hey, congratulations, a win is a win, and I'm kind of under the impression of AJ Brown is a selfless receiver, so he's not going to go into the locker room and have a conversation with Jalen because they won the football game.
Yeah, I think they like each other less today than they did yesterday, if I had to guess there. But we'll see how that one goes the rest of the way. But you had Saquon. He had 18 carries for 60 yards and a touchdown. Jalen Hurts did most of his damage with his legs, 14 carries for 62 yards and 2 touchdowns, especially in the first half. They just had no answer for Jalen Hurts on the ground. So the Eagles win 24-20, hold on to start off their Super Bowl title defense with a win over one of their rivals, the Dallas Cowboys, there at home. So that was an exciting kickoff to the NFL season. And as a side note, as we talked about, you did have Jalen Carter after the game. He came out and said, it's not going to ever happen again, but, typical apology. And so we'll see if the NFL feels it's necessary to suspend him further or if it was just a one-game ejection, they're going to move on from there. But a big win last night for the Eagles as they start off the year 1-0. But again, it is Final Score Friday here on the show. So we want to hear from you, 205-834-9450. That'll get you on the courtesy GMC text line. What are your score predictions for Alabama, Auburn, other games going on around college football this weekend? We'd love to hear from you. And we also have some updates on the Auburn Tigers, including some injury news that shouldn't be a big concern long-term, but in terms of who's going to be available for you tomorrow, maybe not going to see some familiar faces out there against Ball State. So we'll tell you who it is and get to your score predictions next on Morning Jox. 6:18. Welcome back in to the Final Score Friday edition of Morning Jox. Connor and Damian here with you until 7 o'clock. Spent the first segment recapping last night's NFL kickoff as the Eagles took down the Cowboys. A quick reminder, tonight you do have more NFL action if you're not busy with Friday night lights here around the state, as you're going to have the Chiefs and Chargers taking each other on in a divisional matchup over in Brazil. And that game, if you are wondering where you'll be able to watch it, will be on YouTube. But the good news is it is free to watch on YouTube, so anybody can watch it. But I know for some of you, it's like, oh man, I'm gonna have to go and find the YouTube app on my smart TV and download that and go through all of that. And yes, you will have to do that, but it is free. It's not a YouTube TV subscriber thing. It's just on YouTube for free if you want to watch it. So that'll be exciting to see tonight there from Brazil. But we do have college football coming up, of course, and we're going to get to some of your final score predictions here in just a moment. But did want to give you some updates on the Auburn Tigers because you got to hear a little bit from Hugh Freeze yesterday as he made it known that starting running back Damari Alston is going to be unavailable against Ball State this weekend. It appears that he is dealing with a little bit of a shoulder injury. Not expected to be anything serious, but, I mean, no disrespect to Ball State, but let's be honest, you probably don't need him on Saturday, so it's a better idea to just get him rested up. So that does mean that Jeremiah Cobb is going to be your RB1 for the Auburn Tigers tomorrow. That means you're also going to probably get a good dose of Omar Mabson and Darrell Robinson. And Omar, of course, the freshman that we heard so much about in fall camp, you didn't get to see him against Baylor, which was a little bit surprising. But, I mean, again, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? Like they were cruising with their running game on last Friday. So a little bit of an injury update there for Auburn. So we'll keep an eye on Damari Alston. Hopefully he's back the following week. But, yeah, he's going to be out tomorrow against Ball State. So don't be worried when you don't see him out there. It seems to be a minor injury that he's dealing with right now. You also found out that at some point, and again, I think we all know how the game's probably going to go tomorrow. It's just a matter of how quickly we get to this point. It's a matter of when, not if, in this situation, and that being a backup quarterback, right? Because I think we all expect, right, the offense is going to come out there. If they handle their business the way they're supposed to, you should probably be able to get those guys out of there around halftime. And in that case, Hugh Freeze has said that Deuce Knight will be the first quarterback in the game off the bench. So that'll be your depth chart for tomorrow. You'll go Jackson Arnold, Deuce Knight, and then Ashton Daniel. He said that could change, I guess, over the course of the season, but essentially, right now, he wants Deuce Knight to get the nod, and so you'll get to see, as you would expect, maybe a good chunk of Deuce Knight for the first time in an Auburn uniform tomorrow. So I know a lot of Auburn fans going to be excited about that, and rightfully so, because he is a very, very exciting young talent. So that's a little bit of your news for Auburn. Really nothing new going on with Alabama. If you missed the news a couple days ago, of course, they got hit with the injury bug again with Jeremiah Beeman, the defensive lineman. He's going to be out for the rest of the season. So they're dealing with their own injury there, but nothing, no real news coming out of Tuscaloosa yesterday as they get ready to try to bounce back against Louisiana Monroe tomorrow. But we did say we would get to some of your final score predictions on the Courtesy GMC text line, and we love hearing them each and every weekend because some of them are, a lot of them are, I mean, right, they're reasonable. Now, sometimes you're like, okay, I can very clear who you root for based on what your score predictions are, but we enjoy those as well. So we want to hear your score predictions, 205-834-9450 on the Courtesy GMC text line. And Drake, this is a game that I'm very excited to watch. Drake's feeling good about it, though. So you got Florida taking on USF, and I know a lot of people, okay, maybe that's not that exciting. If you didn't see what USF did to Boise State last weekend, and maybe the reality is Boise State's just not that good this year, at least compared to last year with Ashton Genty and whatnot, but USF looked really, really good. And so they're going to take on Florida this weekend, but Drake says Florida 37, USF 17.
Hey, man, I know Drake's a big Florida guy. The biggest thing I think for Florida is do not take them lightly. No. Because I think USF is coming in there with confidence and the fact that they physically dismantled Boise State. Like, they broke Boise State's will. A team that was just in the college football playoff last season was absolutely a shell of themselves after they left South Florida. And Alex Golesh He just seems like a coach that if he smells blood in the water, he's definitely going to attack. And hopefully, to me, it's one of those things. If Florida plays like they're supposed to, they should handle their business. But you should not take this USF team lightly. Ask Alabama the past couple seasons. They'll make the game ugly now.
Yeah, I'm not sad to not see them on the schedule this year. I'll be honest. If Alabama was playing USF this week, I might take USF. They looked that good last weekend. But again, obviously, Florida and Boise State going to be a different level of talent, right? Different level of physicality that they're going to have to deal with this week. But I think that's going to be a very, very good game. And like Damian said, don't take them lightly. But Sergeant B is, because they chime in and say Florida 42, USF 7.
Hey.
So they're doubling down on what Drake said there. So that's an interesting one. This one says, now if this happens, if you thought this Monday was interesting, this text says, with the way Alabama played last Saturday, I think it will actually be a close game tomorrow. I'm thinking 21-17 either way.
I can't co-sign that one. I don't believe that's going to happen. The fact that he said either way, like, I understand Alabama looked bad last Saturday, but they would have to double down on getting worse for it to be this close. I don't know if you could get any worse than what we saw last Saturday.
Yeah, get your popcorn ready if that happens. Nick from North Birmingham chimes in. He has a number of score predictions. He's going Auburn 50, Ball State 10. Okay, big win there for the Tigers. He has Alabama over ULM 42-7. He has Michigan 30, Oklahoma 18.
What?
And then he has Florida 24, USF 17.
The disrespect to John Mateer. Thinking he's only going to score 18 points. Stop that.
Hey, take it up with Nick. Appreciate you chiming in this morning, Nick.
No.
Let's see. Walker from Georgia chimes in. He says he has his JSU Gamecocks taking down Liberty. That's going to be a good matchup this weekend. 27-24. Big win at home for JSU. Absolutely. This one rolls in. Alabama 35-10 over Louisiana Monroe.
Would you accept that?
See, and that was what I was going to ask. For me, I mean, look, it's a win. I feel like if it's 35-10, I'm probably not going to have seen everything that I needed to see to feel better. Not that, and I will also say this. I don't think there's anything that can happen on that football field tomorrow that would make me feel that much better about what I saw against Ford. Now, I could feel a little bit better and be, okay, maybe, I could have some reason for optimism moving forward, but I don't think I'm going to walk away from that game tomorrow night going, Alabama's back. Like, there's nothing they can do in that game tomorrow that's going to make me say that.
Right.
Because, again, no disrespect. Brian Vincent's doing a great job down there, but, I mean, if you don't show up pissed off and beat this team by 50 points tomorrow, you should be embarrassed. You should be. You should be.
I think that's fair.
But I'm not confident that they are, ticked off enough to do that. But, hey, according to Kalen DeBoer, they're pissed off. So we will see. Bobby chimes in. He also says Alabama 35-10 over ULM. Says Auburn will win 48-0 over Ball State. LSU 56-0 over La Tech. You've got Ole Miss 42, Kentucky 14.
Let's go.
And he's got Oklahoma 35, Michigan 24.
I can rock with that.
Mm-hmm.
I can rock with that, especially the Ole Miss score. It's time we put Kentucky out of their misery. They've been feeling really good, especially after what happened last year, but it's time to put belt to ass.
I like this text. It says, good morning and happy Friday. How are you getting yourself pumped up for Alabama to beat an electric ULM team by a field goal tomorrow?
The disrespect.
I am not excited for that, but appreciate Bama Abroad texting that in this morning. And, of course, Don, his thoughts. Let's see some of his score predictions. He has Auburn 59-7 over Ball State, Alabama 49-10 over ULM. He's got Ole Miss 35-14 over Kentucky, and Oklahoma 31-24 over Michigan.
Sounds good to me.
He says he's excited to see his Auburn friends on the plains tomorrow. Yes, y'all can enjoy the new laser light show, and What else did they have yet? Oh, the new video board, all that good
The
stuff.
first downs.
The line, yeah, that'd be the one I'm the most excited about, honestly. If I was going to the game tomorrow on the Plains. But keep those rolling in. It is Final Score Friday, 205-834-9450. Continue to send in your scores, and we will continue to read them. Appreciate all of y'all participating on the show this morning. But we also want to take a look at what are some of the big matchups around the SEC, because let's be honest, there's really not, the biggest game of the week is Oklahoma and Michigan. There's not, those big kind of non-conference games other than that, like you had last week necessarily, but still some interesting games to keep an eye on around the Southeastern Conference. So we will highlight those for you and continue to get your score predictions on the Courtesy GMC text line. That's all next on the Friday edition of Morning Jox. Well, welcome back into the Friday edition of Morning Jox. Connor and Damian here with you until 7 a.m. when we will hand you off to McElroy and Kubelik in the morning. And then, of course, after them, you have three-man front and then Paul Feinbaum to wrap up your Friday of live coverage here on Jox. So we are getting you ready for some of the highlight matchups of the upcoming weekend in college football. What do we have going on around the SEC? You've got Auburn hosting Ball State, Alabama hosting Louisiana Monroe. You've got Jacksonville State and Liberty. You've got UAB going up and facing Navy this weekend. So a lot of exciting matchups here around the state, but also around the conference. And we're also getting your score predictions because it is Final Score Friday. And coming up here towards the end of the show, me and Damon will give you some of our picks for the weekend's matchups as we do each and every Friday here on the show. But quickly, just looking down the slate for tomorrow, what you have around the SEC. So Texas, a little bit of a different matchup this weekend, not taking on Ohio State, but they are taking on San Jose State. So that's going to be an 11 a.m. kickoff there on ABC. Texas, obviously a big-time favorite in that matchup. At 11:45, you're going to have Utah State and Texas A&M there in College Station. Again, Texas A&M, a big 30-plus point favorite in that matchup there. And look, a win is a win. I understand that. But, UTSA did some things last weekend. Like, they were able to, maybe not the way that Texas A&M thought that game would go. UTSA showed some fight.
Yeah, there's some things they got to clean up. There's
Yeah.
some things Texas A&M has to clean up. But we hadn't spoken about Texas A&M, but something that's been on my mind the past couple days since the first game is I think they actually lean on the pass too much. Like, I don't think of Texas A&M, besides the Johnny Manziel years, I thought they kind of had gotten away from it, and they want to, like, physically impose. And you have all those running backs in the running back room. It just feels as though you would want to attack them more ground and pound. And again, I don't know, now I will say Cravers, he is an absolute dog out there at receiver. So I can understand that you want to get some of your playmakers the ball, but I think you're putting a lot on Marcel Reed when you don't necessarily have to, if that makes sense. Like, I think it's a lot more of, hey, can you find a way to truly hand the ball off and establish a little bit more consistency in the run game? That's just only going to open up the pass game for everybody. And again, I understand that you have Casey Concepcion, who's absolutely electric, but there's some issues on defense they're going to have to address too. But I don't think necessarily Utah State is going to pose that much of a threat. But there's some things that I would kind of just we need to fine tune some things as we continue on through the season for Texas A&M. Yeah,
it wasn't a bad start to the year though for Marcel Reed. But I mean, he did have 4 touchdown passes, but he had 8 carries in the game last week, which led the way for A&M. Ruben Owens and Le'Veon Moss combined for 8 carries. So, yeah, maybe lean on the running back game a little bit more there. But certainly Texas A&M and Marcel Reed, at least offensively, got off to a pretty solid start last weekend. But you're also going to have Georgia. They're taking on Austin Peay after they dismantled Marshall in week 1. That game's coming up at 2:30 tomorrow. Then you have I love this, early season SEC matchup. Ole Miss versus Kentucky in Lexington. Revenge on the mind of Ole Miss. And for Kentucky, this is your chance to yet again save Mark Stoops' job potentially, right? This is what you're playing for right here. You did it last year.
Yeah.
Ole Miss was better last year, right?
They were more experienced at the quarterback position. But if you watch what they did to Georgia State, Ole Miss is for real. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a fan. But I think if you watch, and I know this is going to absolutely burn.
Who did they play?
Georgia State.
Mm-hmm.
And they handled their business.
Yeah, they did.
My team 1-0.
That's not really your team.
But anyway, like I was saying, if you watch Austin Simmons, he reminds you, and I know this is going to sting.
I know.
He reminds me so much of Tua.
Yeah, he wishes.
He's got a little bit quicker of a twitch, but I think it's because they're both left-handed and they both wear 13. But there's a lot of similarity in their game.
No, I understand why the comparison has been made. Yes, they do look similar if you just were to glance out there on the football field. But yeah, no, Austin Simmons is very, very good. I know he had a couple interceptions last week, but one of them not really his fault.
Right. And then the defense, y'all told me all those years ago that Pete Golden's defense just ain't gonna work. Seems like it's working over there in Oxford, Mississippi. I tell you that.
I think a lot of people would like to see Pete Golding in Tuscaloosa right now, but we will leave that at that. But Ole Miss and Kentucky, they're going to do battle tomorrow at 2:30 on ABC. Ole Miss an 8.5 point favorite as it stands right now. Then you've got Tennessee. They're taking on East Tennessee State tomorrow at 2:30. There's not even a line for that one, so that tells you everything you need to know. Kansas and Missouri. This is going to be an interesting one. A Big 12 versus SEC matchup at 2:30 tomorrow. Missouri, a 6.5-point favorite at home. I will say, again, kind of like what Damien was saying with Ole Miss, I understand they were playing Northeast, Western, Tarleton State, whoever they played in week 1. They look pretty darn good. Like, again, I know the competition wasn't great, but
they hung 60 on him.
Prabula?
Yeah, he's QB1. And again, unfortunate for Sam Horn that it's due to injury.
Yes.
But once Pribula let loose and realized he's QB1, yeah.
It would have been him anyways. No offense to Sam Horn, but yeah, he looks like he might be something special there for the Missouri Tigers, but we'll wait and see as they take on Kansas this weekend. We already talked about it a little bit with Drake and some other textures earlier, but South Florida at Florida, that's at 3:15 tomorrow on the SEC Network. Florida, a 17.5-point favorite. This is one of those games, the plus 17.5 for USF seems like too good to be true. Like, in my gut, that's telling me that there's something up here, like Vegas knows something. I think that's going to be a very good game. I think it'll be a very competitive matchup tomorrow, but we will see. You got Arkansas and Arkansas State. That's at 4 o'clock on ESPN Plus. Arkansas, a big favorite in that one. South Carolina State, Louisiana Tech, LSU. You can see a trend here. You do have Mississippi State and Arizona State, another interesting Big 12 SEC matchup. We saw that last year as well. Arizona State, a 5.5-point favorite in Starkville.
And here's the thing.
What a win this would be for Jeff Lebby.
And that's the thing. Like, I can't stand Mississippi State as an Ole Miss fan. I really could care less if they have success.
What's that?
That was old. You can see the dust on it, man. It ain't got nothing to do with me. It's actually been. I was wondering what was making my face itch earlier, and I noticed it was that. But I would say that something in my gut tells me that Mississippi State is about to pull off an upset. Like, I don't believe Arizona State is as good as they were last year.
I agree with that.
I think Mississippi State is getting better, and you need just that one win to make you say, like, all right, Lebby's got his guys now. Let's see where this thing could go. But they do feel like it's like a prime. It's almost in the prime spot because it's week 2. It'd be something different if Arizona State's rolling and it's like week 8, week 9 when they know exactly who they are. But they still have some issues that they need to work out and things. So if you're Mississippi State, Blake Shapen is healthy, and they look good against Southern Miss. Again, Southern Miss is not Arizona State.
Yeah.
But you get them at home, and you kind of just have that feeling of if there's a perfect storm starting to happen, and I kind of feel like this game could be close, but I do feel like Mississippi State can pull off this upset.
I will just say this. Maybe this isn't the best example, but I think it is an example of what we talk about with the SEC. Whether you think Mississippi State's the worst or the second worst team in the conference, I think most people would say they're one of those two. They are playing a top 10 team or a top 12 team at home, and they are only a 5-point underdog.
Take that for I'm with
exactly. Not saying that means the world. I'm just saying that
I'm with you, brother.
Think it would be a little different if you had, Texas going in to play the worst team in the Big 12. I think that line would probably look a little different. So just throwing that out there. The big one, though, of course, that everyone's going to have their eyes on, I would imagine, tomorrow at 6:30 on your second screen, of course, because you're going to be watching Auburn or Alabama most likely. But you have Michigan and Oklahoma. That's the big matchup of the weekend, a top 20 battle there in Norman, as number 18 Oklahoma is a 5.5-point favorite over Michigan, coming in with their true freshman quarterback, Bryce Underwood. I thought John Mateer, again, I understand the competition they played last week, as advertised, right? He is currently leading the SEC in passing yards, had almost 400 passing yards last week. This dude's for real. We tried to tell you about him all offseason, and I think the rest of the country is going to be put on notice this weekend because I know we're about to do our picks here in just a few minutes, but I think Oklahoma, I like them in this matchup. So big opportunity there for the Sooners. And then wrapping up at 6:30 as well, you're going to have Ball State at Auburn. You're going to have Vanderbilt at Virginia Tech, and you're going to have Louisiana Monroe at Alabama. So that's your slate for tomorrow across the SEC. You got a couple of ranked teams in action. You got one top 20 matchup there with Michigan and Oklahoma. So a lot to still be excited for. But we are going to get to our picks here momentarily, but want to take just a second to go through some more of your score predictions on the courtesy GMC text line. Let's see. Bobby chimes in. He says, "Come on, Conrad. Damian declared his fandom for Ole Miss before the season started, so he gets to claim." I know. I'm just giving him a hard time.
Hotty toddy.
See, Jamie then chimes in. He says, "This dude is a funny Ole Miss fan. He's just a Vol fan posing."
People really, it's starting to get a little redundant. How many times have I told you I'm a Josh Heupel fan? He just so happens to be coaching at Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
If he leaves, I'm done. Like I'm rocking with Josh Heupel wherever he goes. I was rocking with him at UCF. So it's Josh Heupel. I've never been a Tennessee fan. He just so happens to be the head coach at Tennessee.
Did you smoke a cigar when they beat Alabama last year?
Absolutely. That was because I picked Tennessee to win.
Is that how that works?
It's how it works on this side of town. But again, I'm on the Lane train anyway, so stop talking about last year, dude. My team is 1-0. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I can't relate to that.
Sure can't.
Eric in Adamsville, I told you not to pick Alabama. I was trying to. You thought I was doing it out of spite. I was trying to protect you, Damian. I'm always looking out for you, man.
Appreciate it, dog.
Always looking out for you. Eric in Adamsville, he chimes in. Bama bounces back 63-7, looking to see improvement from the coaches. Do they coach the players up? Do they get on the players for their lack of effort or dumb plays? Do they call a great defensive game plan because Malzahn was Womack's daddy last week?
Dang.
A lot of questions to be answered tomorrow. That's maybe the more optimistic side of the spectrum. How about this one, though? Jimmy chimes in. Last week's Bama game looked very similar to USF in 2023. What do those games have in common? Starting quarterback Ty Simpson. Okay, I got to say this real quick. Can we all remember Ty Simpson did not start that football game? It was Tyler Buckner who sucks at football. But yes, no, Ty. And look, I'm not saying that Ty Simpson came in and took over that game. Roydell Williams is the reason Alabama won that football game with what he did out of the backfield. But this has been the whole narrative about Tyson. Oh, he started the USF. He did not start that game. He played far better than Tyler Buckner did once he came into that game. But he goes on. He says he says the commonality between this game and USF is that Ty Simpson's the quarterback. He says ULM will get blown out by at least a touchdown. Alabama may open a can of whoop arse and even put double digits on them. He says, I predict Alabama pulls away late to win 27-16.
That would be uncomfortable.
I don't think people would be very, very happy about that. And we will wrap up with this one. Eric in Cahaba Heights, he says, score prediction for Auburn. Hugh Freeze shoots an 87 on Sunday. Appreciate you chiming in on the courtesy GMC text line, everybody. But we've got to make some picks, and that is exactly what we will do next. Where are me and Damian leaning for the big matchups this weekend? We'll tell you our picks next on Morning Jox. 6:50 here on your Friday morning. Appreciate you tuning it into Morning Jox. Conrad and Damien here with you for a few more minutes. And you know what that means when you hear Lil Wayne on a Friday morning? It means it's football season, and it means it's time for us to make some picks. So we just went through the slate of what you have to look forward to this Saturday around the SEC. So now for some of the bigger matchups, Damien, let's put our money where our mouth is. And I think we start off this one, and it's only right because it is your new team. But at 2:30 tomorrow, you've got the first SEC conference game of the season as Ole Miss and Kentucky are going to face off in Lexington tomorrow. I already mentioned Ole Miss, an 8.5-point favorite at home, a revenge game for your Ole Miss Rebels. There's a part of me that wants to say, Kentucky's going to be fired up. I think defensively, maybe they could get some stops early on, make some things, a little difficult for Austin Simmons because he still is a young guy. But I find it hard to believe that this Kentucky team is going to get the best of Ole Miss 2 years in a row with Zach Calzada at quarterback. I feel like maybe it's interesting early. I think Ole Miss ultimately pulls away. I like them to win and cover. It's a revenge game for them. They've had this one circled.
Absolutely. And as long as we go out there and handle our business, I don't think this game should be particularly in question. But Kentucky, they've shown that they'll throw some punches now.
Oh yeah.
But Zach Calzada, he's had some big moments in his college football career. And he was at Texas A&M. He knocked off a top-ranked Alabama team. I just don't see that happening this week. I think Ole Miss handles the business, and that 8.5 is an easy lock.
We have Kansas and Missouri at 2:30 as well tomorrow. Missouri, a 6.5-point favorite at home. I like Missouri in this game. I also really like the over of 51.5. Kansas has scored a lot of points early on. Now, granted, this is the best team that they faced, but you saw Missouri score a lot of points the other week as well. I could see this being like a 42-35 kind of game or something like that. So that means it's probably going to be low scoring now that I'm saying that. But I'm going to take Missouri to win this one over Kansas. I do like the over as well, though. I think a lot of points.
Yeah, I think Missouri, what they showed me, and again, it was Central Arkansas, but I think offensively they can explode. Like, it's kind of one of those things where we've been so used the past couple of years of just being, the stretch zone, outside zone. It's been kind of a ground and pound attack. Not to say they can't get into it, but I think Pribula has kind of shown that, hey, if we need to open this thing up, we can. So I think Missouri gets this one as well.
South Florida at Florida. Florida, a 17.5-point favorite. I already told you I like this one earlier. I'm taking USF to cover. I think Florida wins the game, but yeah, 17.5 points. Yeah, USF is for real. Alex Golesh is good.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think USF covers, but I think Florida not necessarily sleepwalks, but I think USF is good enough to throw a couple punches, but I think Florida just has the few more Jimmies and Joes that you need to kind of take them over the top. I think it's kind of uncomfortable, but you see that there is a separation between, the schools, and I think Florida ends up getting the win, but I do think USF keeps it within the number.
We got Arizona State, Mississippi State. They're in Starkville. Arizona State, a 5.5-point favorite on the road. And, I want to go – I really do want to pick Mississippi State to pull off the upset. I think it's an uncomfortable game for Arizona State, but I do think they ultimately win and probably cover. I think maybe like a 7 to 10-point win for Arizona State, so I'm going to take Sun Devils.
It's probably the nicest thing I say about my rival all season long in Mississippi State. I think they pull off the upset. I do. I think Blake Shapen and those boys, Libby's, he's going to have them boys fighting and clawing, and all it takes is a few things to go your way. And I think Mississippi State gets those lucky breaks, and I think they pull off the upset against Arizona State.
There we go. All right, now for some in-state games, you've got Auburn and Ball State. They're 43.5-point favorite. You think they cover that?
Yeah. I think Auburn explosiveness on the offensive side, they'll hang at least 42 on them.
Yeah.
And maybe like a late touchdown or something, or a late field goal for Ball State. We'll push it.
I'm not touching that or the Alabama game.
Nah.
This point spread's too much. Alabama's a 34.5-point favorite right now over ULM. I think they're going to win the game, obviously, but I don't know about a cover. But Michigan, Oklahoma, we'll wrap up with that one. Oklahoma, 5.5-point favorite. I think they get it done. I think they win by touchdown at home, and John Mateer is a Heisman contender officially.
They don't call him Moneyline Mateer for nothing. Give me Oklahoma.
That's absolutely right. Well, those are our picks. Appreciate you joining us this morning. We're back Monday at 6 a.m. McElroy and Kubelik in the morning.